Volatile Dead of Seething blows up 10 corpses instead of just 3 from the default gem. Basically, this gem gives you over 3 times more damage for VD builds that are hit based. Now, it does come with the downside of not being able to have more than 10 active balls at a time, but if you completely ignore the ball damage, which is weak anyway, it's spell damage, and focus entirely on the corpse damage of Volatile Dead, this thing is absolutely insane. And that's what this build is doing. A double cast on crit Volatile Dead Trickster. I'm also using a second trigger for cast on crit, where I automate my desecrate for corpse generation. This build has been crazy efficient. It's easily hitting between probably 30 and 50 million DPS on a 10 divine budget, face tanking Ubers. It's really great for a lot of the softcore gameplay in terms of having a smooth playstyle, automation, one button. It's a little bit on the slower side as far as builds go for clear, but I think by far this is one of the most efficient builds being played right now live on SC. In addition to leveraging a really broken skill gem, highly efficient corpse automation, I'm also using 2 really efficient uniques in particular that I want to highlight. Firstly, Leadership's Price gives me access to alt ailments. Now, alt ailments in the case of this build is extremely powerful because there's high variance between my small hits and big hits from corpses. Sometimes I have huge hits that have a base damage of 150k when a Kataba Herald gets blown up. Sometimes my hits are small, but those don't really matter for the sake of alt ailment calculations. I'm very easily able to literally double my crit, get 30% more res reduction from Scorch, and also get pretty good damage mitigation from Sap. Nathma is the other really powerful unique. I run 4 power charges on this build, and because of that, I'm really easily able to get 4 curses, which I then also automate through a trigger focus helmet. Another really easy way to do things, and it keeps this build as basically a one button playstyle all the way down. As we get into this character though, I don't want to focus too much on the specific decisions. The character itself is one of the worst constructed things I've ever done, because I built this thing without using POB basically. I just built it fresh as I was transitioning out of a chain DD hit base setup, just looking for something else to do, and so it's really freestyled, but the core mechanics is what I will explain in the POV. Also, I get that I'm not playing Ball Flame Blast Ignite. I really wish I did League Start that. Ignite Elementalist has probably the smoothest start of any build, especially in SC trade where you're easily able to scale gem levels. Instead, I chose to League Start as a Pathfinder with Poison's Concoction. And that skill didn't do damage for the first 3.5 hours of League, which was annoying, but not as annoying as Penance Mark, which doesn't really work like how it showed in the trailer. The Phantasms spawn are so far away from the marked enemy. It's like probably 2.9, 3 point some odd radius, really far away. Like imagine this is the marked enemy, and then you have a gigantic righteous fire in between you and the enemy, and then the phantasms are over here. So prolific mechanics didn't work for that, and it's one of the reasons why this is a budget 10 divine character, because I had to reroll a second character, start from scratch, and end up with this thing. But I'm really glad I did, because this is crazy efficient, super fun, all-rounder, great bosser, good at everything, you know, clears everything, especially once I figure out the stun immunity stuff. Let's get into the details of the build right now. So the POP calcs for this build are really annoying. Obviously, the damage is really inconsistent, and I'm not even sure what my corpse HP should be to start with. I definitely know that it's over 30 mil sometimes. I definitely know that it's below 100 million DPS. But roughly speaking, these should be the numbers. Before I forget, I'm also running some charms. I only have 2 slots unlocked, but I'm getting Ash from there. I'm also getting my suppression cap from there. And then my power charge generation also comes from my charms. Let's go with the tree first. Actually, let's not. Let's just briefly touch on the tree. This is a leadership's price tree to keep 2 attributes balanced. If you're Shadow, Dexterity, Intelligence tends to be the easiest because their base number is the same. So you don't need to do weird things in terms of gearing. That said, I'm still doing that because I'm using careful planning to convert some into Dexterity. This part of the tree, this part right here, probably just wants to go. It'll be removed soon. Ascendancies. Soul Drinker, I think, is insane. Having Overleech on Trickster is so broken. I don't understand how some hit-based Tricksters skip this. One step ahead, one of the best early game nodes, period, especially defensively. And then Polymath is just a generic all-round node. Good for mapping recovery, great for damage. In terms of skill gem setup, I'm running 4 separate curses in my helmet. These things are automated when I press focus. I'm using a Blast Rain Desecrate setup in my chest, and then a 7-link Blast Rain Cast on Crit Volatile Dead setup in my bow. So as far as the Desecrate setup goes, you actually do need pretty much all 6 links. If you have a 5-link, you can play without Cascade. This will half your damage, maybe, roughly in that range, but it'll still be playable. You cannot go with less than 4 links, or 4 links or less, otherwise you literally won't be able to cast. VD setup is what it is. It's all damage links all the way down. There's no Cascade this time, so it's pretty straightforward, and also no ICS. Frostblink is my movement skill of choice when I'm mapping. I use Flame Dash on bosses. Auras wise, Discipline, Precision, Grace, and Dread Banner. Some people always ask about Dread Banner. Basically, it just bumps your evasion. 80% goes down to 74. Super high EHP gain at basically no cost. Blink Arrow, faster attacks, and then I have 1 open socket right now. There's some socket flexibility, but I ran out of chrome, so not too sure where I want to take that. Items, and this is where it's important. I talked about 2 of the uniques already. Let's talk about the third one. Tanuahi. It's usually a pair of gloves you don't use on caster builds. But because this build has so many hits at the same time, just always, always, always. And then I'm also taking this life mastery here for skills costing life. This makes all my triggers actually cost life, and that's really, really great for Tanuahi because I'm always losing life and then regaining it from leech instances, and then getting really solid uptime on adrenaline and onslaught, at least while I'm doing single target or fighting. In maps, the single target isn't so great. This corruption also costs like 5C total, something like that. You really want to be overcapped on attacks because you're relying on ult ailments for cast on crit cap. So you're actually quite a bit below crit cap. I'm almost not accuracy capped right now, but quite a bit below crit capped when you're not having your brittle up. You see my blast range only at like 82% here. So you really want to get as much crit as possible. But in terms of early game, leadership's price setups for crit cap, really, really efficient and definitely worth doing. So for as far as the rare goes, this bow is basically a 2-mod bow with crafted crit chance. I mean, I got lucky with crit, so I crafted this focus DD. But it's a minion essence, so essence of fear. You're rolling that until you hit cast on crit. It should be about a 1 in 69 to hit cast on crit. It took me about 200 essences though, I don't really know why. And then I anoint spiritual aid on here, so I can actually make use of this. Don't use essences of woe. This isn't spell damage, it's corpse damage. It's something else entirely. Quiver, also flexible. I really like to have this frenzy charge on crit here. I'm on life, and then I use an essence for crit multi. And the reason that I don't like this, well, I should get rid of that. But the reason I don't like this as much, if there's anything else, is because it's not consistent for mapping. You have frenzy gens on bosses and fighting rares and whatnot, but it's not there when you're mapping for the most part. Fist taking ass on helmet, double mod. I like to look for the Veiled Corel, if someone just sells it, and then I crafted it on trigger focus. 16 chest, suppression, fist taking ass again. Good evasion base here. That 2400 evasion gets converted with Trickster's node over here for escape artist. So pure evasion chest, just easy to roll for suppression basically. Boots, kind of weird. So obviously the ground effects suck because I have leadership's price. Action speed doesn't really work at low values because I'm a Trickster taking 1 step ahead. So move speed is pretty much the place to look for. You could go for a generic CDR afterwards and try to hit CDR cap with like a different belt, or I don't really know, but pretty flexible slot for now. Non-damaging element craft can be used as well if you're low on damage. Ring. This is where I get my Fire Leech from. I don't recommend it later. I would much rather go for a Cluster Jewel for Fire Leech, but as far as now goes, I think this is not bad. The cast speed is useless, so it's basically 2 suffix, 1 prefix, and life ring. Belt, life res. Watcher's Eye, precision, just for, some flash generation. I think you can also look to maybe run Grace Suppress, would be really efficient. Careful planning to convert, and then this Lethal Pride. This Lethal Pride can hit a bunch of different mods, but I'm only really looking for 2. One of them is double damage, which is obviously, and the second one is physical damage taken as fire damage, and this really helps out with your Fizz shift. I don't play Determination. Even in my current setup, even skipping this Fizz as node, I have a 14k max Fizz hit, and that's without Frost Shield, without Guard Skill, no armor. So this is really, really nice in terms of low investment defenses and physical mitigation. And honestly, this build doesn't die running any sort of content that isn't like 1, Ubers, which can always kill you, and 2, like pretty strong G's content. Even when I'm fighting like, double infused with Affliction essences and whatnot, it's still like not a problem at all. Because of all the recovery mechanics you have, pretty good avoidance, and honestly, even the base mitigation is really, really solid. I'll min-max this over the next 24 hours, maybe over the next 48 hours. But there probably won't be another video. Just like import my character in like 2 days if you want a much more optimized version of this. It will definitely be better because even right now, I know exactly like 5 or 6 changes I need to do. But I don't want to talk about them right now because I don't know in what order I'm going to do them and just how they're all going to interact. Anyways, hope you guys are all having a much better league start than I am. If you want to give this build a try, please do. The base requirements are so inexpensive and it's so fun, and the damage is like, what the heck? This gem is broken. It's going to be like this all league. There's so many broken gems. There's so many.